Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and this is the Apple Watch Series 4. Now, I've been using it for over a month now, and I can't wait to talk about it. This is my favorite, most useful piece of tech that I currently own because it is the most personally useful in my daily life. Now, before getting into everything, let's address the two different sizes. We've got 40 millimeters and 44 millimeters, and I've spent a great deal of time with both of them. So the smaller size feels more fashionable because it fits my wrist very well. It's for smaller framed people and is what I wear mostly. The screen feels much bigger than the 38 of last year, so being smaller than the 44 millimeter is a non-issue. But the bigger screen of the 44 millimeter is very hard to argue with and is better to glance at during an exercise for heart rate data and so forth, just to have that bigger graphics. Plus, more text comfortably fits on the bigger screen, so if you have a wrist big enough for the 44 millimeter, I recommend it hands down. And yes, on both screen sizes, I have encountered the uniformity of brightness being off. It appears to be a calibration issue with the green subpixels being too bright along the edges of the screen, so keep exchanging it. Not all have this issue, at least not as bad. So here is how I use my watch every day and what features make it extremely useful to me. So starting off, it is my constant companion, and the battery lasts all day or even 2 days, depending on if you're using LTE or not. The next obvious thing is that it tells time. I got the Hermes version to look like a timepiece, and I think with the right face and band, it looks beautiful and classy. Another thing that this watch provides for me is safety on walks. So I go out exercising on trails a lot, and I feel more secure knowing if I somehow get separated from my phone, I can still make calls, and my watch can't be dropped or fumbled. That's a big thing. So even if I'm running away from something, women think about this kind of stuff. So I can quickly send an emergency SOS. And if medics know about this or if it becomes useful at the hospital, I have my medical ID that's easily accessible, and it tells what type of thyroid medication I'm taking and when. And then we've also got fall detection if I happen to get hurt when I'm out and about alone, just say on a trail. It will ask you if you're okay after a fall is detected, and if you don't respond, it will tap you to try to wake you, sound an alarm, then call 911, plus send location info to your emergency contacts. Now, this is enabled by default if you are 65 or older, if you put that in as you're setting up your iPhone. But otherwise, the fall detection is turned off. Supposedly, that's because younger people are more active, and it says the more active you are, the more it's going to possibly have a chance of going off as a false alarm. So the fall detection's new, and it provides just a tiny bit more of security if you happen to be alone and you fall and you hurt yourself. I also really like that I can send messages while walking or moving quickly, or if my hands are full. So I don't need to invoke Siri anymore. I don't have to say, hey Siri, blah blah blah. No, you can just raise it up to your face.
Call Mom.
And you can go forward with telling it who to contact, so that's been actually pretty useful. Also, when out and about, I can connect to AirPods to listen to music, and that's whether I'm controlling the music that's streaming from my iPhone or music that's loaded on the watch itself, because it does have internal storage. It also has a radio feature too. So that's just awesome. If I don't have my phone nearby, I can still listen to my music on my watch. I've also found it incredibly useful to be able to ping my phone because I'm always misplacing it somewhere around my house. And my watch never leaves my wrist, so it makes sense just to pull up the little control panel and ping my phone whenever I can't find it. So useful. And on that same token, sometimes my phone is in the other room and my watch is always on my wrist, so I will answer or make a call right from my wrist. Now, what's nice is that the speakers and the microphone are much improved this time around, so it makes more sense. Really, the caller can't tell that I'm talking on my watch. And if it seems silly to talk on your watch, just connect your AirPods. And of course, that's going to give you more privacy in your conversation. It feels more like a phone, too. I can also pick up my phone and press on the little green icon at the top left, and the call will be handed off to the iPhone if I feel like continuing the conversation there. Now, this is the biggest thing for me. Because it's always on my wrist, it's the best thing to alert me through the day to take my thyroid medication. Or other supplements that I need to take apart for my thyroid medication. It all needs to be spaced apart. So I've got 5 different alarms, and because the watch is always there, I can easily remember to take what I need to take and when. I can easily snooze that alarm for a few minutes if I can't take the medication right then so I don't forget. It's just like my second little brain. Having reminders and alarms on my wrist takes away so much stress from having to remember things for me. So of course I also use this to make reminders right on the watch. It's really very nice, and you don't even realize how much you need it until you have it. It also motivates me to be more active, something that most of us need, by telling approximately how active I am during the day. Now, feeling the rings is very fun. It becomes kind of addicting. It's really nice to compete against yourself, seeing if you can meet that move goal, getting enough exercise in. Having something graphically represented is a lot different than just data. And something that they just introduced is now being able to challenge your friends under activity sharing. Before you could see what your friends were up to, but now you can actually engage with them socially, challenge them. It's a 7-day competition to see who is the most active, and then you win badges. So that graphic element is really very fun. And of course, there are many exercises that the Apple Watch can track. It's nice to quantify how much exercise and movement I'm doing with approximately how many calories I'm burning. And we've also got some new exercises that it can track, such as yoga and hiking. And something else that's new is that if I forget to start my exercise, or if it detects I'm exercising, it's going to remind me to turn on that particular exercise, and it's going to credit the time that I've already been moving. It'll also remind me to end the exercise too if I forget to manually end it. So if it detects that you're sitting still for a little bit of time, it'll ask you to end it. I also use it all the time to measure my heart rate, and that can be very useful for exercise or for other reasons, and it's more accurate now. So I've been able to use the heart rate feature to assess if I'm taking too much thyroid medication or too little, though it's not intended for that purpose, but it's really nice to have that constant, accurate heart rate reading. We've also got the ECG feature that's incoming. It has FDA clearance. It detects atrial fibrillation, so it's just looking for normal sinus rhythm. I don't have much to say about this, as we don't have the feature yet. Hopefully we'll see this soon. They promised it before the end of the year. And of course, this isn't to replace actual medical advice, but watching trends is really important to understanding your own health. I'm also always using Apple Pay on my watch, and it's just really convenient and nice if I went without my phone and wanted to buy something. I've been finding that Apple Pay has been accepted at more and more places, so it's starting to make more sense. So if you go out for a jog and you end up at a marketplace where they have food, you can pay for it on your Apple Watch and not need your wallet or anything, and then just run and go after that, or buy a water bottle. It's so convenient. I've also really loved that having this watch lets me take a break from my phone and just leave it all behind at home, the phone, the iPad. So if I'm stressed out, this is really helpful. I know I can still make calls and get text messages as long as my iPhone is on somewhere. You can make calls from the Apple Watch if the iPhone is off, but you can't send SMS messages when the iPhone is off, so keep that in mind. Though of course you can still use iMessage. Now, something else that's new with these watches is that these screens are now bigger. So doing all these things I'm talking about is more practical. The 38mm screen was simply just too small, so I really didn't use or appreciate the Apple Watch until now. And you can see side by side the difference that 38 to 40mm makes. It's quite profound. It's no longer square-shaped either. It fits the whole watch face. So much information can be displayed on some of the watch faces just to glance at or interact with. And we've got a couple of new faces, such as Infograph. We've got the Infograph, the analog face, and also Infograph modular. I know some people think that Infograph is too cluttered, but really, you can access so much information on this new watch face. A new little feature that I really love is that now we get haptic feedback when we turn the digital crown. It makes little tick feelings, and it makes navigation much more pleasurable. It's just the little things with this watch. It's crazy, but it does make all the difference. Oh, and before I forget, the processor is much better on the Series 4 than previous models, so the watch is now very snappy and responsive. That makes such a huge difference in everyday use. Another thing I do with the Apple Watch is I read email. You can also send emails, but that's a little bit much on such a small screen, even though it is bigger. But what's cool now is with watchOS 5, you can now follow HTML links right from the watch, whether it's from messages or inside of email, and you can see a full web page. It's scaled down to the tiny screen. And again, the screen is bigger, so it makes sense if I just want to see things at a glance. It keeps me off the abyss of my phone. I use my phone less with still all the same quick information. That's very valuable. Another thing I use my watch for is to get notifications pushed from my phone all day, though I'd be just as happy to turn them all off, except for texts. And that reason is because this watch is so much more than getting notifications from my iPhone, which is why I didn't even bother mentioning it until later. Notifications is pretty much the last reason I have the Apple Watch. And lastly, it's more beautiful now with that all-rounded screen. This is the prettiest looking Apple Watch ever. It's starting to look more like a timepiece and less like a little boxy gadget. So the Apple Watch is a very personal device, and I can customize the look by either the color or the finish, like whether it's aluminum or stainless steel. You've got multiple colors in each finish. And of course, you can also customize what bands you choose, which faces you like best. But I would really appreciate it if Apple would let us have third-party faces without having to pay a premium. Just create a watch face store, for crying out loud, and let us buy those there. Don't make us pay $500 extra for the Hermes watch. So in conclusion to all of this, its usefulness comes from being on my body at all times. And it's more dedicated in features than a full-out smartphone. For some people, that might be pointless. Like, why not just take your phone with you all the time? Well, for women specifically, we don't really get pockets. We can shove our phone in our purse. Maybe you'll have a jean pocket that'll fit these bigger phones. But a watch certainly makes sense because it's always on you. It's not meant to replace my smartphone, but it's there when my smartphone can't be in some situations and lets me get all of my information at a glance without fully distracting me like my phone does. So that is the beauty of the Apple Watch Series 4 to me. A lot of these things already existed before. A lot of these things you can get through the OS 5 update, but just the little improvements they've done on this watch just makes it feel so much more polished. I've always wanted a watch that felt like a watch, but could do much, much more. And I feel like the Series 4 is finally reaching that. So let me know what you guys think about my particular uses, and let me know how you use your Apple Watches. So this has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit the notification bell to get notifications on future videos about Apple products or even Android products. And have a good night, you guys. Bye!